Hello again, everyone. Melth here, with a special side video to my usual Baldur's Gate 3 challenge run. Since I started playing this game, I've been wondering, is it possible to reach level 8 in Act 1? Usually people online said no, the best you can do is get to level 7. Or some people would say 8, but then either it would be shown they didn't actually know what they were talking about, or they were using the exploit where you can find a way to kill Raphael without a fight in Act 1. And that can get you to level 8, but that's just cheating, so who cares? But at long last, I found there is a way without any exploits you can get to level 8. And here's a guide about how to do that. So here we are, casting our shadows into these shadow-cursed lands. About to go on to Act 2, and we have reached level 8. The upshot of which is that if you get to level 8 faster, it also means you get to level 7 faster, and level 6 faster, and level 5 faster, and we'll get to level 9 faster, and so on and so forth. So, basically, if you're following this guide throughout the run, you tend to be a little bit higher level, and therefore you get your fun build choices a little bit earlier, and can get to put your strategies in place, and have all your toys to play with along more of the game. Which, at least for me, is a lot of fun. Now, you won't need to follow every single one of these tips I'm going to be pointing out here. It's kind of more of a menu of options, which you'll need to do most of, but not all of. Now, you might be thinking that maybe the way you get to level 8 is basically just to, massacre everyone in Act 1. Refugees and goblins alike, locking yourself out of all the other quests and things like that in the game. And if so, that would really kind of suck. It would not at all be worth it to get level 8 in Act 1, but miss out on, number one, like every role-playing opportunity, but, number two, just all the treasures and quests you can get later on in the game if those NPCs are alive. So luckily, you do not have to do that. For example, all my tiefling refugees got out alive. All the druids are still down there chanting. I only killed Kaga and her group just as part of that quest. You do need to fight a lot of stuff, though. If you deal with pretty much every conventional quest and every single monster ever in Act 1, you'll get to about level 7.5, once you've cleared out not only the entire surface world, but also all of the Underdark and Grimforge and Rosemary Monastery and the Githyanki Crest. All of that will get you to about level 7.5. You will not get to 8 with conventional play like that, though. Now, getting from level 7 to level 8 takes 9,000 XP. And as I said, with conventional play, if you do everything in Act 1, you'll tend to get about 60%-ish of the way, I would say, from level 7 to level 8. Maybe a bit more than that. So you need to find yourself about 4,000-ish worth of extra XP with creative play along the way. So try to find from my list here things that add up to about that amount that you want to do. It will require doing almost but not quite all of them in any given run. A couple of points to make. One is just explore, explore, explore. Going into new places often gives you hundreds of XP just for walking through a wall or things like that. You'll get thousands over the course of your run that way. It's well worth making sure to go to every place, even if you know what is actually there, just to get that free XP. Just as important as what to do is what not to do. You need to avoid anything that would deprive you of XP. One of those things, and this is a good scene for it, is killing enemies with gravity damage. If I was, for example, fighting Lunk down there, and I threw an object at him and killed him with the fall damage the object does, which could be considerable at this point, I would miss out on his XP, at least potentially. It doesn't happen all the time, but it is not worth the risk. Never kill a big enemy with a thrown weapon's fall damage. Don't even run the risk of that happening. If it happens, you've just lost XP forever. Our quest for XP begins here on the Nautiloid, or rather on the Nautiloid before we actually crash landed here. I've made 2 videos now about how you can take out not only Commander Zhalk and the Mind Flayer, but also Zhalk's 2 Cambion buddies. Doing that is worth a pretty solid chunk of XP, about 300. It's very difficult, but it's quite rewarding, and there's really no downside to doing it if you have the skills for it. And if you don't, my guides will help you a lot. Another basic thing, of course, is just to make sure you do all the quests in the game, which there are quite a few of. But one that's worth talking about is this one, Destroy the Ancient Tome. If you don't already know, that relates to the book Necromancy of Thay, which you get in one of the game's best overall side quests, I would say. Once you have the amethyst in the book, you can then open up the book and read through 3 of its cursed pages to get the quite useful perk Forbidden Knowledge for the rest of the game. I highly recommend doing that. In any case, even having done that, you can still destroy the book if you want to. So watch out, this will then spawn some shadows, but that's not that big a deal. So all told, we got 340 XP for that. Now there is a downside to destroying that book, which is now, of course, we can't complete the rest of the quests in Act 3 anymore. Mechanically, I would say that is well worth it, because the reward for doing that quest is this spell called Dance Macabre. that most of the time is less than worthless. It's a trap. But if you want to complete the quest for story reasons, as I would want to do, of course you don't want to destroy it now. Now, as I think I showed in episode 14 of my 9 Hells challenge run, when you get to the Underdark, there's this one pre-injured Minotaur over here, whose job basically is just to run over toward the Selûne Temple and then get killed by the laser beams guarding the door. But if you go into turn-based mode, or otherwise control him a little bit, and then kill him yourself, you get 75 XP for the job. Now, early on in your quest, you'll surely meet Kaga, and I highly recommend, for various reasons, that you undertake the quest to expose her as a Shadow Druid. The ideal order of operations to do that, I think, is first you can come in here and save Arabella from Kaga. After doing that, that can allow you to befriend Maul down the Tiefling's hideout, and she can give you a quest to steal the Druid's Sacred Relic. Do not do that until exposing Kaga as a Shadow Druid. If you do that prematurely, then the Druids will end up being aggroed against the Tieflings and probably kill a lot of them, which you don't want. But in any case, make sure that you kill Kaga once you've exposed her as a Shadow Druid. Don't choose the option where you side with her, because you don't get the XP for her at that point. She's worth a good chunk, unlike most of these Druids here. Even if you're most siding against Druids, I mean, if you want to fight these guys, you can do so. You can see that I did not do so because I couldn't justify it from a roleplay perspective. They're not much of a fight. They're only worth 20 XP apiece, so, killing everything in here and all their bears and whatnot barely matters, as it were. Now, I think I pretty much already implied this strongly, but you need to, I think, side against the goblins, and thereby, with the refugees, because the goblins give a lot more XP than the refugees and druids ever would. So, kill all the goblins out here and all across all these goblin-infested towns, and all through the temple, except in here the order will actually matter a bit. You can kill all of, Guts followers and those off in these western quarters too, although I would make sure that Roa gets out alive so you can have her immersion in Act 2. In any case, what's important though is to not engage either Dror-Ragzlin or Minthara. What you want to do is go into Minthara's room, tell Minthara nicely about how there's this grove sheltering the refugees. Then you can do the Goblin Siege battle, and Minthara will spawn a new army out of nowhere for that battle, and you get about 400 extra XP that way, more or less. I actually made a video about the Goblin Siege and how to tackle it with no damage taken on either yourself or your Tiefling allies. Then you come back, and you deal with Dror-Ragzlin. I might also add, doing this does not preclude you from getting Minthara as a companion later on in the game. Just knock her out at the siege, and as far as I can tell, it then works. She will show up at Moonrise Tower successfully. Now, another thing you'll probably do pretty early on in your quest is go here to the Risen Road, where you'll find some hyenas about to transform into gnolls. Now, a pretty interesting trick is, if you let the hyenas transform into gnolls, you actually get extra XP. You get the XP for the hyena dying, and then for killing the gnoll. Whereas, if you just kill the hyenas right out, you miss the XP of the gnoll itself. So, slightly advantageous there. You get about another 60 XP out of that. It's not worth a lot, but it's just completely free XP for doing this encounter at all, so good to know about. Now, in episode 24 of my series, over here at Joaquin's Rest, I did a pretty unusual battle, which is to choose to fight these Flaming Fists rather than have them work with us to try to rescue people inside the building. We rescue them ourselves later on. It's a challenging and fun fight, and I highly recommend it just as an enjoyable strategy experience. And it's also worth 380 XP in total if you kill these Flaming Fists out here, plus their valuable loot and whatnot. And there is no downside that I'm aware of to it. You can still rescue the survivors inside the building and, get all rewards and all quests and whatnot from them. So, just an upside, basically. The only question is how to justify it in character for your run. I came up with an okay enough reason for mine, but if you can't come up with one that's satisfactory, you can probably skip these guys and do the other things on my list instead. So, here in the Mountain Pass, there's actually a few things to talk about. One of which is just don't go here too early. If you enter the Mountain Pass too soon, Joaquin's Rest burns down, and also you can't advance the Refugee Goblin plot any further. So, resolve those if we're going into the Mountain Pass for the first time. One of the great things about Baldur's Gate 3, of course, is just how many ways there are to go through many of the quests and explore the world and interact with people that you meet along the way. Many times, befriending enemies gives the same amount of XP as killing them would have. But not all the time. I can't give you an exhaustive list of every single quest and every single encounter and which ways to resolve them are worth XP and which ones are not. All I can tell you really is that in general, the safest course is the one of maximum violence and the most straightforward resolution of quests. For example, with Esther asking for the Githyanki egg, you can give her an owlbear egg instead and convince her to take it, which is pretty cool, but you get no XP for that. You only get XP for giving her the genuine Githyanki egg. 45. Thank you. If you don't want her to have it, of course, you can choose the path of absolute maximum violence and then kill her afterward and take it back. All told, with the 75 from there plus the 45 from the egg, it's 120 XP. But you of course might not want to do things in that way for your run because it might or might not make sense. Now over here nearby, the Kobolds in this area are worth an absolutely comical 75 XP apiece, despite being complete pushovers. Something I only recently learned myself is that there are extra ones hiding in these barrels around the room that will not get released during the middle of the fight, even if most things are in the room or blowing up around them. So, more XP if you break out all those Kobolds. Now up here on the roof of the monastery, something else I actually did not do perfectly right on my run, because I didn't know about it. When the Mother Eagle begins the fight along with her son over there, she will try to summon several other eagles. You should actually allow this to happen. That's worth another 160 XP if you kill those eagles too. Now that's actually pretty unusual for this game. If you, for example, allow hook horrors to summon other hook horrors, you don't get any extra XP because they're just pulling in hook horrors from one fight to another zone. So it's the same number of total hook horrors overall, so you get the same amount of XP. Likewise, as far as I can tell, there's no XP you really gain by letting Gekko reanimate all of these Dwergar and people like that on the beach to fight you with zombies. They're not really worth anything significant, as far as I can recollect, so that's not really worth doing either. Now, in episode 43 of my series, I talk about something else that's very important and worth quite a lot of XP. And it's tricky to get right. As you first approach the Inquisitor arguing with the Kithrak in this office room, to get a good chunk of XP from 5 Githyanki that are standing over there to begin with, you must attack in the middle of the conversation. And there'll be no button to do so in the actual options at the bottom left, so you need to tab out to someone else, basically, and have them shoot someone in the conversation to begin the battle that way, and fight those 5 Githyanki, who are worth about 75 XP apiece, so that's a good chunk of XP right there. But to avoid any bugs, you need to do it in just the right way. Otherwise, you end up with the Inquisitor kind of just stuck there on the other side of the doorway, just staring, and it can ruin things. So, episode 43 talks about the step-by-step plan to get all those guys into one big battle without missing out on things with the Inquisitor. Another potential chunk of XP, which you can maybe claim depending on what your character choices are going to be for this run, is when you're leaving the Githyanki Creche and try to travel to any other region, Voss, of course, shows up in camp with a raider who he didn't bother to give a name to. If you choose to attack him here,
yes,
75 XP for his buddy, and he's worth 400.
let his heresy die with him.
But this does, of course, lock you out of some content in Act 3, so this would be something I would not want to do normally. Notably, by the way, he will not drop the Silver Sword of the Astral Plane you might be wondering about. He will only drop this, otherwise very hard to obtain sword, but I mean, it's not that great, just kind of interesting. One chunk of XP that I forgot about while I was making this video originally is the Spectator and the Iron Flask. So if you throw this Iron Flask, as most people know, the Spectator comes out that is hostile to everyone, including you. This is often used for people who want to make a hard fight easier to throw in the Spectator that then be neutral and attack everyone equally. I prefer to have things be the hardest possible fights they can be, so I don't really want any surprise allies, but the Spectator is a decently fun fight in its own right, and if you kill it, it's worth 150 XP. Now, the Spectator is part of a quest, sort of. See, it comes from the Iron Flask, that comes from the Caravan Strongbox, that comes from Rugen and Ollie in the Zhentarim Quest in Risen Road. Now, it's kind of set up as if there's going to be some kind of cool continuation of that quest in Act 3 if you deliver the Caravan Strongbox, but there really is not as of this current patch. You can hand it then to a certain random person in Act 3 and there's just no response, no reward, no anything. So there is no downside really to just getting the Iron Flask out and battling that Spectator yourself for both fun and XP. Let's talk about the Zhentarim Quest though and how to do it optimally. There are many ways to go through this quest line, but to get the maximum XP and treasure, I'd recommend doing something like this. Come hereabouts and kill off Flind, and rescue the two Zhentarim in there who unfortunately in my run killed themselves. Once you've rescued the Zhentarim, do not open their Caravan Strongbox. Either befriend the two of them and send them off to their hideout, or take the Strongbox yourself to their hideout. The hideout, of course, is under Wakine's Rest. When you arrive at the hideout, Zaris is over there and she'll challenge you. If you have befriended Rugen and Ollie and have not convinced them to betray the Zhentarim anyway, then you can easily befriend Zaris, or if you bring her the Caravan Strongbox, that'll work too. Once you've befriended Zaris, she'll tell their merchant Bren to sell new stock to you, including the much coveted, although in my opinion somewhat overhyped, Titan String Bow. And you can also then talk to him to free their captive artist Oscar Fevris, so you can do a truly god-awful quest in Act 3. Wouldn't want to miss out on that now, would we? Once you have that, you have everything you need for them, so kill them at will. And don't forget there's another group of Zhentarim in the back of this hideout. kill those guys too. Now, the XP to be had in the Myconid colony is pretty easy to overlook. I think a lot of people side quickly with either Sovereign Spa or Sovereign Glut and just dispose of the other one, which gives you almost no XP. You know, if you side with Glut against Spa and then just kill Spa immediately, knock him off the edge of the cliff or whatever, you get just XP for killing him, and then everything else in the colony becomes passive and you don't get the battle done. But there are a lot of Myconids. All told, you can get over 400 XP from battling all of them. That's a good chunk. So if you want to do that, I recommend, side with Glut or whatever, attack Spa, get Spa out of here, but don't knock him over the cliff, that'll instant kill him. Keep him alive until you've killed every single Myconid in the entire colony in one giant, very fun battle. Then finish off Spa, and then Glut will revive everyone anyway. Also, although I of course wouldn't do it because it'd be bad role-playing and I'm not, just killing everyone in the world here, you could get a good chunk of XP by killing these 4 gnomes that you can rescue from Grimforge after dealing with Mir and so forth. They're worth 75 XP apiece. I wouldn't do that, it's hard to justify in character, but I want to just point it out as an option if you were desperate, I guess. Also in this general area, you'll find these mushrooms you can jump over to get down to the staircase that leads down to where a bunch of Kuo-Toa worship the great god BOOAL. If you don't already know about that, which I don't blame you, because a lot of people seemingly don't, it's a very fun encounter, and it's worth a lot of XP, whether you side with them or kill them all. The Kuo-Toas are worth a comical amount for how easy they are. Now, one substantial chunk of XP that I didn't think of until after making the first version of this video is from killing the Oathbreaker Knight. If you didn't know about it, the Oathbreaker Knight is this NPC who shows up in camp if you're playing as a paladin and you break your oath. Now, you could respec any party member to a paladin, or Withers can give you a hireling paladin. Kurz here is a paladin already without even needing to respec him. He's Oath of Devotion, which is probably the easiest oath of all to break. Just do anything bad and that'll break that. Now, I feel that would be pretty cheesy, honestly, to get a hireling paladin, have him break his oath, then just to kick him out of the party forever, just to get the guy in your camp so you can kill him for XP, but I did want to bring it up as an option, at least. Now, a few words of caution about this guy. Killing him won't, change the story, but it does have some pretty major consequences. So for one thing, only he can restore your oath as a paladin. So if you want to stop being an Oathbreaker, you need him for that. Also, as far as I'm aware, you can't respec as an Oathbreaker paladin unless you first restore your oath. So you want to make sure that you don't kill him if you ever plan to respec a paladin who's an Oathbreaker. He's not easy to kill, having almost 300 hit points, a pretty good armor class, and all the abilities of a 12th level paladin. But if you do bring him down, he's worth 640 XP. Coming back to where this video began, right before going to the Shadow Cursed Lands, you can have your encounter with Elminster. Now, if you choose to battle Elminster, you lose Gale forever, so I wouldn't really recommend that for an ordinary run necessarily. But if you don't care about Gale anyway, you can get 1000 XP for battle with Elminster, which is a pretty tricky fight, and I made a video about that too. All told, this is more than enough XP, from all these things I pointed out here, to get you over the threshold to level 8. So you can choose from all these options which ones are right for you and your run. And other than that, if you just play thoroughly, explore everywhere, battle everything and have a good time, you should be able to get to level 8, and perhaps more importantly, along the way, you'll have gotten to level 7 faster, level 6 faster, and so forth, and therefore had all your fun toys and build options earlier in the game for more of these encounters. Alright, hope that helps some of you out there. My next goal is to see if I can get my way to level 11 in Act 2. I'm honestly not sure. I got very close in my first run of Act 2, but it did seem like I had done everything thoroughly that time. So we'll see whether with this new knowledge that I have now, I can actually get to that level or not. Let me know if you've already done it, or if you have another way or another source of XP to get to level 8 faster too. Thank you for watching, everyone, and a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. MasterKnightDH, Jackie, Enlino, George Grin, Travis, Carlo Andrea 97, Cthulhu's Mom, Andrew Curzon, Truebsy, Skillwrap, Gregory, William Wakefield, Danny Hall, Jeffrey Morse, Josh Becca, Jack, Mashas01, Jacob Marshall, Nubiana, Till Fisher, Discord Colossus, Nicholas Schmuck, Kostya Nasarevich, Luke, Goman Blackrock, Dodo King 4, Marcin Bialek, Maveth, Techno Waffle, Nebular, I Loop, Michael Francis, Emperor Kong 420, Robin Maki, Mick Balls, Daniel Sedajikato, Stiljan Flanny, Micah Marie, Christopher Allen, Stefan Van Zyl, Eddie, Wendy, Ali Kasamoglu, Lucas Riverola, Skylar Sauce, Nick Myers, Bethany James, Emp Ninjas, and Preben. Have a great day, everyone.